Chapter 35 to 41. Rimuru, Raphael. Report. 2 ogres are trapped under a collapsed building 30 meters to your left. Raphael is so convenient. Having it draw up the most efficient path to take to rescue as many ogres as possible was a great decision. This way, I don't even have to stress out over saving as many people as possible. The best part is that the skill is even taking in the movements from Ranga. After contacting him with thought communication, and giving him instructions, I'll just let everything work on autopilot. It's so nice not having to think. After that, make a U-turn and pause at the stoplights. Fucking what? Anyway, I'm running around the whole place in the smoke trying to save as many ogres as I can. For those who were trapped under the recently burning buildings, I just eat the debris with Predator. If they're too injured, I just throw them a full potion. After that, I use spatial motion to teleport them all outside the village. Normally you can't move anyone as you wish with spatial movement, you have to have their permission, or they have to at least be aware of it. But with my crest of space, small restrictions like that are easily bypassed. Unfortunately, I don't have time to explain to everyone about the healing meat buns. So if I just throw it at them and leave, they most likely won't eat it. Therefore I'm not using them. Such a shame. As for the orcs, I just knock them out before they can even do anything. Well, although I say that I rescued them, the ogres are a very strong and warlike species. Barely a third of them even needed saving, while the rest of them are fighting back with everything they have. Of course, the number of casualties is rapidly increasing. Report. The orcs are under the effects of the ravenous, unique skill. Eating their defeated foes will give them a chance to inherit some properties. In this case, although the ogres were putting up a good fight and could have easily repelled them with minimal casualties, once one of the orcs ate some of the fallen ogres and gained their superior strength, the rest of the orcs will have gained that property as well, and with their superior numbers, they will win. So, even though the majority of the ogres are fighting back, from this moment on their casualties will only increase. So I knock out any orc I come across and inform every ogre I see that can move on their own about the location where I'm vacating their brethren. Anyway, I start from the outer areas before quickly moving inwards. I learned how to make temporary runes by just using magicules and writing them down on a surface. They disappear after a while, but they can be written so fast and I don't need to engrave them anywhere. Furthermore, simply supplying them with magicules refreshes their duration. Wait, can I use this to sneakily enhance Mikoto's sensitivity when we eventually advance our relationship even more? Cough. No, it's not guaranteed we'll reach that point in the first place. I can't force her. Take things slowly. But right now is not the time to be thinking about stuff like this. Focus, Rimuru. So, to move around the whole place quickly, I wrote some speed buff runes onto the back of my hand, boosting my speed even though I'm already quite fast. Because of this, it doesn't even take 5 minutes before I'm right at the center of the village, ready to enter the largest house I can find. I assume this place is where the head of the village will be, but... Clang. That's the distinct sound of weapons clashing against each other, the sound of people battling it out with each other, the sound of men sizing each other up to compare whose dick is bigger. No, sorry, wrong script. I remove the speed rune and I run into the house normally. The sound of clashing metal resounds within the destroyed building. Even now, parts of the pillars are burning due to the artificial rain I made being unable to reach inside. All in all, they're about as stable as my life. I continue running through the building, this time a bit faster. Inside I sense 7 people. One of them is dead, 2 of them are fighting, and the rest are watching. Report. One of those individuals is likely the one from your memories called Footman. Clang. Within a few seconds, I eventually find myself in a large cleared out place. Like, seriously, this part of the building has already collapsed, so it's quite spacious. 2 large figures are battling with each other to the death. An ogre and an orc. The ogre is already exhausted and tired out, while the orc general is looking better worse for wear. The ogre has red skin and hair with a beard, looking like a middle-aged warrior. He's dressed in red armor and is holding a katana, but he's kneeling on the floor. The orc is larger than most of the other orcs I met and is wearing black full-plate armor. He also has a large axe in his hand, currently raised over the kneeling ogre. It also seems like he's magically connected to something. Report, it is most likely a crystal orb someone is using to look in on the situation here from the orc's eyes. Most likely Gelmud. Perhaps even Clayman too. Why, did you suddenly get stronger in the middle of the fight? It doesn't seem like it was a skill. The ogre looks up and asks the orc, who I assume to be an orc general, a question. The orc obviously doesn't seem all too keen to answer. So I decide to take this chance to announce my presence. Rimuru, Orc Lord. You should know of it, yes? This orc is probably a general of the Orc Lord, and while you were having your fight, the other orcs outside must have gotten to one of the ogres, and... I raise my hands in a shrug while closing my eyes and don't say anymore. They know what an Orc Lord is capable of, they all could easily understand what I'm trying to say. Though they all have this surprised Pikachu face expression. I reopen my eyes and look at everyone in the room. First off comes the dead body. It was a woman, having pink hair and fair skin. Her eyes are closed, so I don't know exactly what color they are, but I assume it should be pink, assumed by one of the spectating ogres that looks exactly like a younger version of her who also has pink eyes. I'm going to take a wild guess and say Shuna. The other ogres are male, one of them looking like a younger version of the ogre that was recently fighting with no beard while the other is an old man with white hair. Once again, a wild guess, but Ima say Benimuru and Hakuru. Rimuru want me to help? I speak to the still kneeling red-haired ogre. He just looks at me for a while, before chuckling lightly. No, I lost. This is where my journey ends. Oh, fuck me, not again. Rimuru ***, is that so? Well, I wish you luck on your journey to the afterlife. I thank you. It seems he felt that I was somewhat strong. He knew I could have done something, but chose not to. He looks at the body of the dead woman and sighs. It seems he wants to rejoin his wife. He closes his eyes, and the orc general that was frozen to do anime fight rules to not interrupt when someone is speaking steps forward, raises his axe and brings it down. Shing. This would be a good moment for the masked Majin, footman, to act all sinister, but I just point a figurative giant middle finger at him and use spatial movement to bring all of the ogres outside, including the dead bodies. It wouldn't feel right to just leave them there to be eaten. I appear where I sent all the other ogres to with future Shuna, Benimuru and Hakuru. Ranga is also waiting here. Those three are surprised to see all of them here, but they don't have time to just dawdle. I open my mouth and speak. Rimuru, can I have everyone attention please? I raise my voice and try to get everyone's attention. The ogres stop talking among themselves and turn to look at me, the majority having grateful looks in their eyes. Rimuru, right, first things first, my name is Rimuru. And I'm a slime. I say that while transforming into my slime form while jumping onto Ranga's back. This creates a wave of murmurs from the 200 or so remaining ogres. First of all, I'm named. Once again, a name is a kind of symbol of status for a monster. But what really surprised them is... look at his form. So majestic. Such a streamlined shape. They seem more awed at my looks, the fuck. I was expecting them to be all over me being a slime, but I wasn't expecting this. Well, my form does resemble a meat bun. These ogres have promise it seems. Rimuru ***, anyway, I need to bring you all up to speed on what exactly is going on. And so, I began to explain to them their situation. I told them that their village is totally ruined and nearly completely burnt to the ground. Furthermore, I told them that nearly 100 ogres have already died. This brought a few of them to tears. Even I'm getting affected by the mood. Rimuru. I was late. I apologize. I bow, I'm a fucking slime, to all of the remaining ogres. It's true, if I didn't procrastinate, I could have saved them all. I got too complacent in this familiar world that I forgot that some things are destined to change since this is an alternate world. The young master, the red-haired ogre, quickly stepped up. Please do not bow to us. If it were not for you, many more would have died. Furthermore, there would even be a chance that the old man, my sister, and I wouldn't have even been able to escape from that orc general. Every single ogre present nodded their heads. A few of them even voiced out their agreements. Hold on, isn't that Cheyenne? I smile. Honestly, they're good people. Arimuru, right. I decided. You can come with me. And now it's their turn to be confused. The old man, or rather, Hakuru, speaks up. What exactly do you mean by that? Rimuru, well, I'm also leading a small village of my own. You guys don't really have anywhere to go, right? So, I thought, why not bring you guys along, or something like that. I continue to explain to them that there's a good chance that the orcs will make their way over to my village anyway. When that happens, it's always to have a few extra cards to play. And these ogres will make for a powerful card at that. Well, I didn't tell them that I could just wipe out the orcs myself. Furthermore, there are literally hundreds of ways I could do so. Like, I can just make an army of golems, or better yet, an army of Iron Man armors, and completely steamroll the orcs. Or, I could just write down a fuck ton of runes and blow all of the orcs up. You get the idea. I could also use a meat bun nuke, but that would probably shatter the world itself, so no. I transform back into my human form, still sitting on Ranga's back, while Mr. Young Master speaks up again. You need not go out of your way to bother with us anymore. We ogres will build our strength and take on the orcs again. Rimuru, but do you know where to find them? Where will you rest? How will you maintain your gear? GUH. But even so, involving you in our revenge. Rimuru ****, listen. It's fine. Come to my village. Become my subordinates if you have to. And when the time comes, repay me by fighting on my side. It's a win-win, isn't it? I smile at them with an eye closed, acting relaxed. Inward, I really want them to be my subordinates. I already found Cheyenne, Soai, and Kurobe at the front of the crowd. Although they didn't say anything, they seem to each have a high standing in the group. Onie-sama. Shuna pulls on Benimaru's sleeves. He looks at her pleading eyes, sighs, before walking forward. Can our contract only last until the orcs are defeated? Rimuru, That's fine. Though, I'm sure you'll change your mind soon. I say to him while giving him a sly grin. Benimaru just smiles before kneeling towards me. Then, I would like to accept your offer. We will hereby serve you. Rimuru, then I look forward to working with you. We talked a bit more and decided that the ogres still have to prepare for their journey to my village. It's a bit far, but nothing much for the ogres. They should arrive by next week. Furthermore, they still have to grieve for their lost ones. Unfortunately, I told them that there's a good chance that some orcs are remaining in the village. I didn't explicitly mention why, but Benimaru, Hakuru and Shuna knew since they overheard me mentioning an orc lord just before the ogre warrior died. They then explained it to Soai, Cheyenne, and Kurobe while the rest of the ogres were left in the dark for now. I asked Ranga to return to my shadow. I then prepared to use spatial movement to return home before I suddenly stop as I was hit by a sudden thought. What the fuck happened to my dark flame? I didn't realize it before, but talking with Benimaru reminded me. Report. Due to your infinite magicules, those skills were deemed useless and thus were not synthesized. My dear Raphael, it is not a matter of useless or not, it's a matter of style. Please synthesize them. Understood. Extra skills, control flame, control water, and flame transform, have been synthesized. Extra skills, dark flame, and control particles, have appeared in their place. Thank you. And so, I complete the travel back home with spatial movement, and come face to face with Mikoto sitting on the couch looking at me with an unamused expression. Mikoto, so. Care to explain why you just left me behind to have fun by yourself? Ah fuck. Mikoto, so. Why did you leave me behind to go off and have fun on your own? Rimuru, Right, what do I say, fuck it. I might as well tell the truth. Rimuru, I wanted to get some waifus. Fuck, wrong truth. Do your damn job, author. Spark. Mikoto, who? Rimuru, it's a joke. I'm joking. I quickly turned back into my slime form to appease to her while trying to convince her it was a joke. Of course, I'm not exactly joking, but I shouldn't say that. But there are other reasons too. Rimuru, those ogres are very strong monsters. It'll be a waste to just let them die. So once I found their village under attack, I couldn't just sit by and do nothing. Mikoto stared at me with narrowed eyes, before sighing and smiling at me. Mikoto, so that's why. But it's still a shame I couldn't join you. Rimuru, a shame. Why? Mikoto, well, it's looked fun. Rimuru, How did you? Ah, the mirror of remote viewing. I left it activated when I left and Mikoto must have seen everything through that. I guess jumping in and beating up some pigs indeed would have seemed fun. I was also enjoying myself a bit, after all. Rimuru, well, there's going to be this big fight coming up. You can come with me then. But you saw me, right? I was pretty cool, huh? Mikoto, yeah. Mikoto nods, picks me up, and we spend more time with each other as I explain what exactly went down. As an aside, Shizu is wandering around outside playing with the residents and getting free food. 3 days later. Rimuru, they're here. Mikoto, Who? Rimuru, the waif, the ogres I told you about. Yes, that's right. The ogres have arrived. Well, not all of them though, just the 6 main ogres that appeared in the series. I thought they would arrive after a few more days, but this is good. I rush out of the house in human form while Mikoto runs after me, curious to see a new species while carrying Shizu along with her in her arms. We soon arrive at the entrance of the village. It's just a fucking gate, where I arrive at the scene of Rigard already talking with them. I told the goblins about the ogres and their arrival within a week, so they're not losing their heads over the ordeal of ogres appearing in the village. I quickly usher them into a building/tent designed to handle affairs like visitors and things like that and sit the ogres down for a talk. Mikoto and Rigard are off sitting to the side. Rigard seems focused on listening to our conversation. Mikoto, however, is playing with Shizu. Of course, no one is bothered. Why? Because the scene is cute as fuck. Of course, Mikoto can easily focus on our conversation while doing her own business, so it's fine. Rimuru, so, why are you guys here? I thought you guys were only going to arrive after a week. Benimaru, well, we decided to go ahead of everyone else and meet up with you first. So we also took this chance to scout out the orc army that laid waste to our village. The other ogres, Hakuru, Kurobe, Shuna and Cheyenne, nod their heads in agreement. Rimuru, And their numbers? So a few thousand. The ogres already knew about it, so they only had grim looks on their faces, but Rigard was pretty shocked. He didn't say anything, but his expression said it all. There are several times the difference in numbers between our forces and theirs. Mikoto seems pretty unfazed. As a level 5 Esper, she had enough power to go head-to-head against entire armies. Granted, those armies didn't have access to magicules and skills, but then and again, neither did Mikoto. Furthermore, she's still growing. But still, only a few thousand. They must not have seen the main force then. If I remember correctly, the entire orc army totaled 200,000 strong. The ones that attacked the ogre village was only been a small fraction of their entire army. Rimuru, I see. Well, not that I care. I can take them out by myself, all 200,000 of them. Of course, I won't, but I could. The ogres should be able to find out their true numbers themselves. If not, I could always tell them later. Rimuru, we'll talk about the orcs later. A few of the sub-leaders from the goblins are still busy, and the dwarves still have a few jobs to do. We'll discuss this all together at another date. But before that, I focus on the 6 ogres in front of me. They feel pressured as they all unconsciously gulp. Rimuru, I'm gonna name you all. Like, Jesus Christ, it's so off-putting, calling them by their names in my head while also knowing that it's not their names. I also bet that author is having a hard time. Now it's the ogre's turn to be surprised. Hakuru, are you sure about this? Rimuru, yeah, don't worry. I know there's a risk, but I can name your entire tribe and I'll be fine, so don't worry. They look at each other before looking towards me and Benimaru speaks. Benimaru, then we shall gratefully accept. I smile and walk up to them. First, the red-haired ogre. He has red skin and red tear marks on his face with fangs pointing out of his mouth and 2 large black horns on his forehead. Seriously, everything about him is red. Rimuru, Benimaru. Next, the sister. She has pink hair and surprisingly normal skin color, comparing to the other ogres at least. She also has those same tear marks as her brother with 2 large white horns on her forehead. Rimuru, Shuna. Next comes the wizened old man. He looks old. That's the quickest way to explain him. He has a lot of wrinkles, and his eyes look like they'll close at any moment. Furthermore, he also has white hair and 2 white horns. Rimuru, Hakuru. After him, comes the future busty babe. She looks more wild right now, and I'm not sure what to think of this, especially after I'm used to her more formal look. She has purple skin and eyes with light purple hair. She also has a single black horn on her forehead. Rimuru, Cheyenne. Next is the man of little words. He has dark blue skin, almost gray, and dark blue hair with eyes of the same color. He also has a single white horn on his forehead. Rimuru, so And finally, and currently the scariest of them all, the craftsman guy. He has skin as dark as Soai, with a different shade, and black markings next to his eyes. He also has 2 white horns on his head. Rimuru, Kurobe. I smile as I finish naming them and I sense my magicules flowing into them. I don't feel any different. Infinite magicules for the win. After I name the ogres and talk with them for a bit about their lodging and basic needs with Rigord, I leave the room no worse for wear. Meanwhile, the ogres are still shocked and amazed that I named all of them at the same time without any backlash. Mikoto follows me out with Shizu still in her arms but now asleep. Shizu's body is still that of a newborn after all, regardless of how fast she's growing. Mikoto, hey, I've been thinking this before, but why is everyone all hung up on names? Rimuru, Mikoto, I mean, monsters usually don't have names from what overheard, but they all think having names is something amazing. Then why don't they name themselves? Rimuru, I didn't explain it to you. Well, first off, as you said, monsters usually aren't born with names. However, getting named will give them a boost in power, so much so that it can even become a catalyst for evolution. You felt my magicules pour into the ogres with your magic sense, right? Mikoto nods. Rimuru, well, that happened because I named them. When someone strong names a weaker monster, it takes magicules from the namer and gives it to the named while engraving the name onto their soul. Furthermore, if the difference in power between one giving the name and the one receiving it is small, the former might even permanently lose magicules and become weakened. And sometimes death isn't uncommon. This becomes all the more likely when you name a large number of monsters at once. Mikoto, then why weren't you weakened? Rimuru, ha ha ha. My dear Misaka, my magicule reserves are so large, even naming hundreds of ogres at once won't even make a dent in it. I continue to explain why naming a monster is normally such a huge affair. I specifically used Shizu as an example. Shizu's Hellcat race is a C rank monster, according to Raphael. Meaning, normally, she wouldn't have grown any stronger than C rank. However, after being named, she inherited Mikoto's limit break, unique skill and can grow even beyond that. Normally, of course, monsters would have to evolve to continue to grow stronger than their race limit, but naming monsters can induce that evolution, so it's pretty much the same. Rimuru, well, when you named Shizu, she was just born and was also pretty weak, so you should be fine. Though that was a rather dumb move. Mikoto, oh be quiet. We finally arrive back at our house and I suddenly get the urge to eat some meat buns. I mean, I always have this urge, but it's stronger now, so I listen to my heart and make a meat bun to nibble on. Mikoto, can I have one? Rimuru, I nod my agreement and make one for her too, and we just sit on the couch nibbling on meat buns, not saying anything. Shizu, meow. Shizu wakes up and looks at us. Immediately, I knew what she wanted. So, I made a meat bun and gave it to her as well. Rimuru, you know, it's a bit inconvenient, isn't it? Not knowing what you're thinking. Shizu, meow. Shizu just meows and goes back to nibbling on her meat bun with closed eyes. God, she's so cute. Mikoto, yup. Mikoto voices her agreement and also goes back to nibbling on her meat bun with closed eyes. God, she's also cute. Rimuru, then, I'll give you the thought communication skill. I'll give it Mikoto as well, while I'm at it. Creation. And so, I make a skill bun. Yes, it's a fucking meat bun that can bestow skills. I give it to Mikoto and Shizu, and now they have thought communication. Ha, fuck all of you pro tags that have to work to get new skills. Just eat bun and ascend, esps. Why did I do something like this? Well, what if Shizu wants a meat bun but I don't realize it? That would be absolute sacrilege. Therefore I made something that can break the balance of the worked as we know it. Fuck you Veldanava. Benimaru and the other ogres evolved just a day after, during their sleep. One moment they were ogres, the next, they evolved and became Kijin. Man, this is so trippy. Well, they all evolved exactly as I remember, so there's that. Benimaru and Soai evolved into Ike men, Shuna evolved into a cute girl, Cheyenne evolved into a babe, Hakuru evolved into one of those silver foxes, and Kurobe. He looks like your regular middle-aged man. What an oddball. But, they all turned less wild and became more appealing to my eyes as a former human. I mean, they weren't that bad as ogres, unlike how the goblins were, but now they look less like your mother and more like a Hollywood star, except Kurobe. I'm sorry man. Well, he just looks like your average uncle, he's not ugly by any means. Anyways, Benimaru, as the head of this group of ogres here, came up to me and kneeled before me. Benimaru, Rimuru. No, we have a request. Rimuru, What's up? Do they want more lodging for the ogres that are arriving soon? I guess I could just make more, I don't really want to bother Mildo since he's still working around the village. Benimaru, please accept our oath of fealty. Rimuru, Aren't you already working for me? Benimaru, no, we wish to serve you as your retainers. Oh, so they want to officially become my subordinates. Shouldn't this happen later? Well, I'm not going to complain. So I accept. A couple of days later, the rest of the ogres are finally here. I've had a plan in mind ever since I had my talk with Mikoto about names and monsters. He. As soon as they arrive I line up all of the ogres and immediately start the process of naming them. Everyone was hysterical, naming so many ogres at once is idiotic. But I don't care, my magicules will never decrease. Furthermore, I've already come to terms with my idiocy. I'm joking. Anyway, I name all the ogres and immediately rush back home. Slam. Aramuru, Misaka. I burst through the door in my slime form and rush straight towards Mikoto. Mikoto and Nani. She seems wary of my actions as she takes a step away from me. Rimuru, I just named all the ogres and my magicules are almost gone. That's a lie, my magicules are fine. Mikoto, seriously? All at once? Are you okay? Rimuru, not really. So I would like to ask a favor from you. Mikoto. Now her wariness has increased and she's looking at me suspiciously. Her intuition is sharp as always. Rimuru, let me rest on your lap. Mikoto, oh, if it's just that, then it's fine. Moments later, Mikoto sits down on the couch and pats her lap. Mikoto, here. Yes. I jump high into the air, turning back into my human form and land straight onto the couch with my head square on Mikoto's laps. Mikoto, www. Her face explodes into a blush. Mikoto, what are you doing? Rimuru, what do you mean, what? I'm resting on your lap. I reply to her with my eyes closed while smiling. Mikoto, I thought you were going to be in your slime form. I know. Rimuru, hey, I never said anything about which form I was going to use. Mikoto, anyway, please get off. She continues to stutter and she tries to push my head off. But I become stubborn and refuse to move. Rimuru, what, you're going to go back on your words? Mikoto, but dash. Rimuru, ***, I didn't know you were this type of person. I act like I just got betrayed and begin to get off her lap slowly. Mikoto, guh. Fine. Just this once. Success. And that is how I tricked a tsundere waifu to give me a lap pillow. Best day of my life. The whole time her face was red but it calmed down after a while. In the end, she just played with my hair while staring at my sleeping face. But I can't sleep though, so I sensed everything. He. She's gonna kill me later. The OG ogres arrived, I named them, they turned into Kijin, the rest of the ogres arrived, I also named them, and I got a lap pillow from Mikoto. Although I kind of skipped over it, a couple more things happened during that time. So, first off, I gave official classes to the Kijin. Something I learned from the series is that giving titles and such things to your subordinates will give them a boost in power. I'm not sure if this works on humans, but this works for monsters. An example is giving Rigard the title of Goblin Lord, which made him into a macho man that makes JoJo poses. I'm so proud of him, wipes tear. And so, I gave such titles to the Kijin as well. Benimaru became my samurai general, Shuna became my oracle/priestess, Hakuru became my chief instructor, so I became my covert agent, Cheyenne became my royal guard, and Kurobi became my weapons master smith. Basically, these titles also turned them into macho men that make JoJo poses. Wait, what the fuck? Beep. We are having difficulties, please stand by. Anyway, at first, Cheyenne didn't become my secretary. I was hopeful that this alternate world will change Cheyenne into a better secretary, but nope. She's horrible. She almost accidentally made another shelf. Luckily, I stopped her before that happened. But, alas, she doesn't fit anywhere else, especially in the kitchen, and so I took a little pity on her and eventually followed in OG Rimuru's footsteps and made her my secretary. At least she looks the part. Is this what Rimuru felt like? Is this why he tolerated her? Well, I eventually grew to not mind her little slip-ups and even enjoy them. Of course, Mikoto became extremely territorial of me and would not let anyone else carry me around for too long, so... RIP. Can't feel Cheyenne's tatas. But I'm still happy Mikoto is acting like this. Mikoto, so comfortable. Maybe she's only doing this for herself. Well, this led to Mikoto, Shuna and especially Cheyenne verbally clashing with each other whenever they meet. Of course, this only happens when it comes to me, but otherwise, they forget about all of their previous spats and talk like good friends. Rimuru, I don't understand women. Benimaru just nods sagely from the side. Anyway, the rest of the ogres arrive and I name them all and I get a lap pillow. The day after that, Soai appears in front of me out of nowhere, nothing personal kid style, while kneeling. Soai, Rimuru-sama, I have a report. Rimuru, Soai continues to explain that while he was scouting ahead for the rest of the ogres as they were making their way here just after he was named, he sensed something. So he sent a clone of his using his replication skill he inherited from me to investigate. Soai, I spotted a group of lizard men. Seeing them so far away from the marshes they call home struck me as odd, so I followed them for a few hours. It seems they're going around negotiating with the nearby goblin villages. They may one day come here as well, so I thought it best to inform you. Rimuru, who? Well, good work. After that, Soai disappears. Man, he's good. Still, I wonder why he didn't tell me yesterday. Flashback to MC getting a lap pillow. Cough, maybe it's for the best. But still, that should be Gabble and his group. God, I hope Gabble is different from his canon self. He's so annoying before he goes under Rimuru. So yeah, I send a pulse scan with my universal perception to find out when exactly his group will arrive. Report. The lizard men should arrive in approximately 3 days. Or so, Raphael said. That's good. Rigard, the dwarves, and the other sub-leader goblins should be free at that time. We'll have our orc lord meeting then. Anyway, true to his title as chief instructor, Hakuru immediately started training some of the hobgoblins, Gabuta being among them. He nonchalantly said he wanted to learn swordsmanship while Hakuru was passing by and ended up getting dragged away by the ankle. I decided to also take this chance to learn swordsmanship myself. Sure, I could just learn swordsmanship instantly myself with Rune Master, or Creation, or I could have Raphael analyze all of Hakuru's movements and have it control my body for me, but where's the fun in that? Sure, if it was the old me, I would probably decline to learn it the old-fashioned way and just use my skills, but that's because it would just be too tiring. But with my current body that has infinite stamina, learning should be more fun than anything else. And so I asked Hakuru to teach me. Long story short, I got fucking wrecked. Without Raphael speeding up my thought process, I can't do shit. Sure, I can sense him with universal perception, but the problem is that I can't even react to it. Of course, I'm not using Raphael or any of my other skills to assist me. I'm even limiting my physical strength to be the same as Hakuru's, so it's not surprising that I'm getting thrashed. I mean, if I just went all out, I shouldn't bother learning anything in the first place, should I? Well, there was a moment where I did get a little impatient and swap my wooden sword with a replica I made with Creation that can let me fight like a master swordsman, but Hakuru found out that I cheated somehow and beat the shit out of me. I ended up giving him a meat bun to appease him. Sniff reminds me of my dear father. I'm joking. I also learned how to infuse my magicules into objects instead of simply wrapping them around things, so my spatial slash got an upgrade. But in the end, I got a little bored. Sure, I might be a hypocrite, but I'm a genius in space, not the sword. That's Gabuta. My learning speed is only average, unfortunately. So I cheated a little and wrote down a rune for comprehension on the back of my hand, so I could learn swordsmanship faster. This swordsmanship training is also getting me to think about my weapon. And I mean my official weapon, a go-to weapon that will let me dab on them haters. I can make Excalibur so I can fire off one giant energy blast after the other like it's no big deal, just for the lols. Gate of Babylon was talked about briefly, but it's not a bad idea. EA maybe. And these are just from the Fate series, there's no need to limit myself to just these. Boosted gear, cardinal weapons from the Shield Hero series, Murasame or other Taigu, hell, even Fukin lightsabers. There are so many options. I'll deal with it later. Procrastination. It's been a few days, time passed like normal. I would walk around the village while Mikoto carries me around either in her arms or on her head, depending on where Shizu was. If Shizu was on Mikoto's head, I would be in her arms, or vice versa. We all would talk to each other about random things with Shizu making use of her new thought communication skill. Sometimes we would say hello to any passing ogre, goblin or wolf. Mikoto once carried both of us on her shoulders, but Mikoto, my shoulders are so stiff. It wasn't very comfortable for her. I would always reduce my size for this, and I'm not even originally that heavy. Rimuru, is it because you aren't used to the weight? Mikoto popped a vein and I ended up getting launched into the fucking stratosphere. It was only later that I realized it could be interpreted that I was making fun of her lacking chest. I really don't understand women. Of course, Mikoto realized I wasn't poking fun of her and apologized with yet another lap pillow. Worth. The ogres are making use of their superior physique to speed up construction. As an aside, none of them evolved into Kijin. It's not exactly unexpected, I'd say. After all, Kijins are apparently very rare evolutions of ogres. Instead, they all evolved into something new called a high ogre. They're like physically enhanced ogres, but their magicules didn't increase as much as Benimaru and the others. If put into game stats, high ogres would specialize in STR and VIT while Kijin would specialize in INT or MAG. Well, in the end, magicules determine how strong a monster is overall, so Kijin still ended up being the better evolution path, but none of the high ogres are complaining. Sometimes I would call Ranga and we would just go on a run, just the two of us. Other times I would be with Hakuru getting advice on swordsmanship. During this time Mikoto and Shizu would be working on their own skills. Mikoto isn't interested in swordsmanship and Shizu can't hold a sword, so they wander into the experimental site and train there. They aren't slacking off, you know. There were even times when everyone just stopped their work and sat down to have lunch together in a big feast. Everyone enjoyed it. And that was how the last few days went. I'm in my absolutely beautiful slime form, wandering around the village by myself, looking around to find something of interest. It's near the end of the day, everyone is finishing up their work and getting ready to rest. Ha! Look at them, living a productive life and shit. Pathetic. I happen to see both Shuna and Cheyenne walking together in a certain direction. I bounce up to them and say hello. Rimuru, hey, Sauce, Rimuru here. Cheyenne, Rimuru-sama. What's Vsauce? Rimuru, don't mind it. Shuna, Rimuru-sama. How are you? Rimuru, oh I'm fine. What are you guys up to? Shuna, Cheyenne and I were just about to head into the hot spring. Rimuru, Shouldn't it be the guy's turn right now? Cheyenne, they finally separated it by gender, so now there's no need to designate certain times by gender. Rimuru, 3. Rimuru, can I join you? Shuna, of course. Cheyenne, we would love to. Rimuru, then let's go. And so we all head to the hot springs together. I can't wait to enter. I've been deprived of anything stimulating for so long, it's getting unbearable. But in the hot spring, I can peek at their legs and ass, maybe even accidentally brush them, hoo. What's that? What about their breasts? Well, I have stopped being indecisive and have settled on the following statement. Ahem. Boobs are overrated. I am hereon-forth an ass and legs man. I am a true man of culture. But this is a bit interesting, I remember OG Rimuru being asexual, meaning he has no sexual drive, but I still feel horny now and again. It's nothing bad, just interesting to think about. But just as I was about to enter paradise, I mean, the changing rooms. Mikoto, Rimuru. Shet. Rimuru, OH. Mikoto. So nice to see you. Mikoto, So. What were you doing? Rimuru, well I was just about to take a dip in the hot spring with Shuna and Cheyenne. Mikoto, ****. Hey, Shuna, Cheyenne. You know this guy is a male, right? Mikoto turns to Shuna and Cheyenne while pointing at me. Ha, unfortunately, your plan won't work. Shuna, is that so? Cheyenne, I thought slimes were genderless. Rimuru, well, I am genderless, I just identify as a male. My choice is heavily influenced by my past life. Shuna, well. Cheyenne, you see. Shuna/Cheyenne, I don't see the problem. See? I fucking knew it. Therefore, I can have a free pass. Mikoto immediately breaks out into a blush. Mikoto, BB but you're okay with bathing with a male? Cheyenne, of course. He is Rimuru-sama, he only needs to ask and I would be glad to show him my body. Cheyenne proudly declares while Shuna nods from the side. Even in canon, they didn't mind Rimuru bathing in the hot spring with them. Mikoto has now completely broken down, her face is completely red while she keeps on stuttering and her head starts emitting steam. Mikoto, anyway. I'm not comfortable with this. Shuna, Cheyenne, come on. Rimuru, hey, just a little is okay, isn't it? Mikoto snaps her head and gives me a death stare. Mikoto, Rimuru. Spark. Gulp. Rimuru, why yes. Mikoto, get out. And so, I dejectedly leave the area. Mikoto, meanwhile, is still heavily blushing. She stares absent-mindedly into space, seemingly thinking about something, before her face blushes even more, somehow, and she shakes her head, dispelling any thought she had. She then follows Shuna and Cheyenne who already went ahead of her into the changing rooms. Meanwhile, outside, you can see me in my human form, staring up at the moon with a peaceful face. Benimaru and Soai were on their way to the hot spring when they come across me. Benimaru, Rimuru-sama, it's good to see you. Soai just nods. He always was the quiet type. Benimaru, out of curiosity, what are you doing? Aren't you going into the hot spring? I just stop gazing at the moon and look at them both. And then, with a face filled with enlightenment that Buddha can only hope to reach, I shake my head and speak. Rimuru, I do not wish to be horny anymore. I just want to be happy. Sad music plays in the background. Benimaru, Soai, and every passing male are suddenly overcome with emotion and look up at me with awe. Meanwhile, Shizu, who doesn't like water since she became a cat and is nibbling on a self-regenerating meat bun at home, thinks to herself. Shizu, there's slow Naya. Next day after I achieved enlightenment. Everything is going well, Shuna is making clothes while teaching other goblins, Kurobe is working hard in our new weapon forge with Kaijin, Soai is making a security network around town, Benimaru is talking with Rigard and the other elders about how to keep the town safe, Hakuru is currently beating me harder than my dad ever would, Cheyenne is cleaning, and Mikoto and Shizu are at the experimental site blowing the place up. Hakuru was just about to beat me up in the name of training once again while I'm running away squealing, I'm not, I'm fighting back, when Rigard runs up to me. Rimuru, Rigard, what's up? Rigard, I have a report, sir. A lizard men envoy has come to visit. Rigard states the news while making more JoJo poses. Gabble is here finally. Now I can act like some cultivation protag and beat up a young master on his high horse. It's something from my bucket list. Rimuru, is that so? Right, shall we go meet them then? Rigard understood. And so Rigard led me to where this lizard men envoy was at the town's entrance. But, as expected, it turns out that this guy is just an advance messenger who asked everyone to come out front. A bit rude, and Rigard would have normally refused him straight out, but this guy is riding on a hover lizard. A lizard riding on a bigger lizard. If put in human terms it would look like a man riding a bigger and weirder looking man. God, that was an off-putting thought. Get it out of my head, Jesus Christ. Anyway, riding a hover lizard means that this guy is a knight class lizard man, which means that the rest of the lizard men would be knight class as well. And considering that we would be destroyed if this was just a normal goblin village, Rigard thought it best to at least notify me. Rimuru, you can turn away people like this next time. Rigard understood. My apologies, Rimuru-sama. Rimuru, nah, it's fine. I wanted to meet with these lizard men too. If it was just a random group of monsters acting all pompous and the like, I would just outright ignore them. I'm not going to cater to people who think they're the shit. Rimuru, can you call the others? If they're busy then you don't need to. Rigard immediately ran off to do as I asked while I waited for the rest of the lizard men to arrive. In the end, Hakuru, who followed me here, Cheyenne, Benimaru, and Mikoto also joined me at the front. To be honest, I was a little confused as to why Rigard called Mikoto here, but apparently, she has quite a high standing among the other monsters. I'm not complaining though. Rigard is also here. Cheyenne arrived with some tea after she finished cleaning. Honestly, the tea looks like a monkey shat in a cup after eating a fuck ton of purple car paint. Surprisingly, it doesn't actually smell all that bad though. Gabuta isn't here, according to my universal perception, so I have to find some other way to get rid of this. It was at this moment my savior appeared. Jeff, my name Jeff. Jeff appears out of nowhere, drinks the tea like a Chad, and proceeds to drop unconscious on the spot. What a fucking mad lad, he drank that like some fucking shot glass. Respect. Rimuru, Jeev. No. I fall onto my knees in grief at losing such a valiant soldier as everyone besides Cheyenne looks at the peaceful face of Jeff with a melancholic expression. Cheyenne, however, has a genuinely confused face as if she didn't expect this to happen. Meanwhile, the Lizardman messenger is looking at this scene from the side with a "what the fuck" expression on his face. A while later, I turn back into my slime form. Cheyenne and Mikoto immediately look at each other with a stare that could kill, and proceeded to play rock paper scissors. Cheyenne won by choosing rock, and I ended up getting carried by her. Mikoto acts like she doesn't care, but I can see you staring at us from the corner of your eye, my dear Mikoto. Honestly, she's such a cute tsundere. And so, after a whole fucking hour, Gabble and his men finally arrive. Honestly, I had to break out my stash of meat buns for everyone here to pass the time. And I mean my personal stash, meaning their meat buns I made by hand without creation. There are about 10 of them, all in line before they get off their hover lizards and begin to bash their spear butts against the ground, making this imposing thundering sound. Weak, gender reveal parties back in my old world was way more intense than this. Then, all of a sudden, trumpet music starts playing from God knows where. What the fuck? How? I want this too. A more majestic, or rather, unique lizardman rides up slowly to the front. His lizard stops before he jumps into the air, fucking backflips, and lands back on the ground like a gymnast. Gabble, I am Gabble of the Lizardmen. You will all serve under me. Consider this a great honor. A few of the surrounding lizard men then point their shields to Gabble, reflecting the sunlight making for some makeshift spotlights. Amazing, even my own subordinates can't do that. Should I teach them that too? Anyway, Cheyenne is currently squeezing my body into a noodle because she's pissed, and I had to tap her arms to remind her that I'm still here. Rigard *ahem* Sir Gabble, was it? Your request for us to serve you is rather sudden. Gabble, pfft. Have you not heard yet? Those pigs, the orc race, are on the move. They will attack this very village before long. And I am the only one who can save your puny, pathetic hides. Listening to him, I can't say I'm getting angry. It's more comedic to me. Of course, everyone else is getting quite pissed at him. Now, what should I do? Should I accept his condition just for fun? What one should fear is not a competent enemy, but an incompetent ally, is a saying from my old world, so even if it's just playing around, I don't really want to agree. This saying was from, notice. The quote is commonly attributed to Napoleon Bonaparte. Ah yes, thank you, that has not helped a single bit because I'm shit at history and I have no idea who that is, but I appreciate your input. Now then, what should I do now? Name, Rimuru. Race, origin slime. Protection, crest of space. Title, highest tier spirit, leader of the monsters. Ultimate skills, Ilya, Heaven's Feel, Raphael, Lord of Wisdom. Intrinsic skills, infinite regeneration, universal shapeshift, universal sense, multi-layer barrier, enhanced replication, universal thread. Unique skills, predator, creation, rune master. Extra skills, Lord's ambition, thought communication, control wind, spatial motion, dark flame, control particles. Tolerances, cancel pain, resist melee attack, cancel natural elements, cancel ailments, resist spiritual attack, resist holy attack. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.